Hello everyone, I'm Rob Smith of the In the Black VTF here at T3 Live with today's market wrap-up. And, in this choppy environment here, you could talk about what you think is going to happen, and then they gap the other way, and we've seen a lot of that. My SPY chart's a little messed up, so I'm looking at the U-Pro, and you just see how these gaps have been gapping and crap, gap and reverse, gapping up and all this kind of stuff. So you want to know that you're in that type of environment. And so more importantly than having your game plan before the morning is knowing that that environment exists and being able to have a checklist in the morning of when things occur. What do I want to be looking for? Why? And then how do I go after them? So first things first, on a gap like today, one of the things you can look for is there any stocks that are significantly gapping, even more than the market itself. And so to start off today, ANAC, huge gap up, and with any gap, as opposed to some people thinking, is it going to gap and sit? Is it going to gap and go? Is it gap and reverse? There's only three things you can possibly do. So if it's going to go up, then what we want to do is how we're going to trade this. And at the rate this thing was going up, we were looking for 5-minute bars. And if you take this out, even from the start, you can see this was an inside 5 to the upside. Then on this dip into here, inside 5 again, inside 5 here. So there's a lot of entry points to that. Another thing you want to look for when the market gaps up here, like this, is another thing you want to look for is things that are going down, because we want to trade against people in losing positions. That's what's going to help the price movement continue. People are jammed wrong. Anybody who's short ANAC had to cover, and they were going to have to do that for a good portion of the day, if not all day long. So conversely, when the market gaps up like this, that anything taking out the previous day's lows, we know there's going to be stops there, because if you were long something overnight, you got what you wanted, the market gaps up, and they start to take the lows out, that's where the stops are going to be, and that's where the people are going to be in trouble. And that's why I read on the opening ANTM here, inside day and down. You can see that. Humana, so a bunch of the HMOs right out the chute. And if you go to ANTM here, you can see that once it started doing that, here it opens and just falls apart, goes negative. You got yourself an inside 15 here, inside 15 here, another inside 15 here, as they completely just liquidated there. And there's another reason for that occurring is that a lot of these are elevated due to takeover speculation. And once you get the market to recover, that's not as important as if you can go out there and just get the ones that are giddy up and getting along. Another thing you want to look for, and I know some people will try and find oversold bounces, things that are beat up to bounce. But the problem with that, something like an MU or a GMCR, albeit GMCR hammers, is that there's a lot of people still trapped on the wrong side of that. And by what I mean is there's still people long trying to get out of here, and anybody buying the dip is looking to get out pretty fast. And so that's going to create selling pressure. And it doesn't mean it can't work. I mean, it certainly can. But the more higher level of probability, if you will, is looking at stuff that is trading at recent highs to take it out. And so if you see U-Pro doing this down in here, and the S&P all getting down in here, right where they think it's possible the end of the world, and then starts to recover, ideally you want to look for stuff that's near the recent highs or going into new highs. And so if you look at stuff like Chipotle here, you've got Netflix, more new highs there. You had Advanced Auto Parts there. You have Google here taking out these recent highs. And the reason is because people could stay short this stuff hoping that the market gets killed, and that even if they've been outperforming, that if the market continues to get killed, they will go. But when the market recovers, that's when you see like you did here. And so you can look at something like XRT Retail, and you can see how that didn't even put any lower lows in here, just slight lower low. And so when this turns around, you can look at like Under Armour and Foot Locker going to new highs today. You have Nike still hanging up there. And then also with the VIX products, if they're not scared, all they had to do was gap and sit, as you saw the SPY do on the 60 for the most better part of the day. And all that's going to do is erode those VIX products, and that's going to get your UVXY to just completely fall apart again, and VXX. And so those are other good plays too. And so, like I was saying with the relative performance, if you look at the groups recently, and you look at IBB, there's no reason to believe this thing was going down. Look at this. This is the best they could do to IBB during the recent correction, if you will. And so another thing you can do there is also look in relative performance. And if you look at this and say, well, they didn't really go up that much from the opening, or a lot of them didn't go. However, you've got a few things to look at. You can look at things that are trading weak in the IBB or IBB related, because anybody in there, once again, got what they wanted, and that's why we're looking at MDVN here on the short side. There's no reason to believe that's going to go up, and we know there's going to be stops here, and we know there's a lot of guys hoping that this thing bounces up, but the market didn't happen, so we're playing that as well. You've got BIIB going inside day, so a little bit of neutrality there to start off tomorrow, to keep an eye on that stuff. And then if we take a look at crude oil, USO, stuck in this range down in here, and it's still inside month and down, but it's stuck in this range down in here, and looking at the oil stocks, XLE could barely take out Friday's highs, and OIH here took out Friday's lows and didn't take out Friday's highs. So there's a lot of things we can look at there for any follow through to the upside, or recovery to the upside, or follow through to the downside. You've got Slob, look at this, tight range inside day. You got Chevron, tight range inside day, to see what those do tomorrow. We've also got earnings coming out of the bank, so we're going to watch the FAS. You can see the FAS came off this triangle low here. We're going to be watching how those earnings come out. And we also have the utilities going as an inside day. But more importantly is when we realize that we're in a gapping environment, a summer environment, and it can easily dry up, as we did most of the day as far as the futures are concerned. Having a checklist on what type of setups do I want to go at. I want to look at the gaps first to see if I can see any significant gaps that are going to gap and go or gap and reverse. I want to look at whichever way we're gapping, the relative performance going the other way, because I know that there's going to be people trapped on the long side. I want to be looking at things that are taking out recent highs or 52-week highs or lows, depending on the direction of the market, because I know there's going to be at least stops there. And then break it down sector by sector and say, where do I want to be? And we certainly had outperformance already in IBB and XRT retail and a bunch of those names. So more importantly than trying to speculate on what's going to happen day by day is having a checklist of what type of setups you want to look for, and then finding them and then executing them. All right, that's going to do it for today. All right, I'm Rob Smith in the Black VTF here at T3 Live with another market wrap-up.